Welcome to TEIMAS Talks. I'm Perla Gándara, and today we are joined by Jordi Boronat, a leading environmental consultant. Together, we'll be discussing waste management, regulatory compliance, and environmental impact. Jordi Boronat is the founder and CEO of MediTerra Environmental Consultants, a firm with more than 27 years specializing in environmental due diligence, EHS compliance audits, and regulatory services, as well as soil and groundwater contamination. He holds an MSc in ecology, and with over 30 years of experience in environmental, energy, health and safety consulting, Jordi has led major projects for both public institutions and private corporations across Spain and Europe. MediTerra is associated with Inogen, a global alliance of EHS and sustainability consulting firms with offices in more than 150 countries. Jordi, thank you so much for joining us on TEIMAS Talks.
Thank you, Perla. I think it's a very interesting initiative you have. I've seen some of the previous interviews and workshops, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So let's start with a broad question. In your experience, what are the main concerns that companies have today regarding waste management?
Yeah, there's several issues, but maybe in the top is the regulatory compliance. Laws around waste, recycling, and standard producer responsibility especially are getting stricter and in somehow complicated to apply for some type of industries. And firms are facing to meet these rules to avoid fines and legal troubles. New policies, for example, from plastic bans to electronic recycling directives, add pressure to the companies to adapt quickly in a short time of period. Another thing is, I think, the cost management, of course. Dealing with waste can be expensive, so businesses are looking for ways to reduce waste generation and find more efficient recycling or disposal options. Inefficient practice like improper sorting or bad inefficient production activities can inflate costs. But from my experience, I found there's also some barriers. For example, many companies want to use their waste as a byproduct, for example, for another activity, and the legislative Spanish regulations make this quite difficult. Then is the sustainability and ESG pressure. Stakeholders from customers to investors expect companies to minimize their environmental footprint. That means that executives are concerned with cutting landfilling, boosting recycling rates, and overall demonstrating progress toward a circular economy goals. Another issue, I think, is the data and the traceability of this data. Many companies struggle with getting accurate data on their waste streams, but they know this is crucial for both reporting and identifying inefficiencies. And from my experience, another issue that maybe is not well known, it's the use of soil, excavated soil. As you know, a soil, contaminated soil, when you are excavating, becomes a waste. And now the regulations on how to deal with this waste, it's not very well legislated around Spain. What happens? That many soil that is affected is used in another sites as a raw material for the constructions. So we are moving contamination from another to another part. In short, companies want to manage waste in a way that is compliant, cost effective, and visible in line with the sustainability commitments.
Yeah, absolutely. In the end, waste management has really become a key priority for many organizations. And in this context of regulatory uncertainty, and especially following the Omnibus Sustainability Package, how's the European legislation impacting the environmental strategies of companies across the EU?
Yeah, this is very important, the Omnibus package, which is essential, reshaping how companies plan their environmental strategy inside EU. The recent updates were mainly the scope of the companies and compliance schedule has been changing. and was introduced to these new changes to streamline and simplify sustainable regulations, responding to complaints that many sectors were doing, especially for the tight time schedule to impact this. For example, reporting requirements such as those as CSRD, that is the Corporate Sustainable Reporting Directive, have been delayed by a year or two in many cases, giving companies extra time to prepare for a good reporting. There are also proposals to raise the thresholds for which business have to report, potentially removing some smaller companies from the scope. In fact, this ends up that the companies needing to report has been reduced by 80%. So this is also important to reducing the administrative. Strategically, what this means is that instead of scrambling to meet imminent deadlines, the companies can focus on improving the quality of the sustainability data and performance. Many firms are using this opportunity to have a broader frame to implement this in better reporting systems and to integrate sustainability more deeply into operations without the panic of near-term compliance pressure. I think in summary, this EU sustainability legislation is driving companies to embed sustainability into decision-making. Companies are asking themselves, are we ready for the next reporting cycle? How do you ensure compliance across Europe operations? So this lead new digital tools for environmental monitoring are very, very important.
Yeah, it is indeed an important topic nowadays. And now, given your wide experience on waste management, which European countries do you consider to be the most advanced, let's say, in terms of legislation in this field?
Yeah, there's as you know, Germany has been always in the front, no, the front runner. They start with strict recycling laws and producer responsibility schemes in the 90s with the green dot system, for example. And today, Germany recycles roughly 2/3 of its municipal waste. Its laws virtually eliminate landfilling especially for household waste, pushing the recycling or energy recovery. Austria, it's another top performer regarding the numbers, the figures. It has a very mature management framework with ambitious targets and one of the highest recycling rates in Europe. In practice, Austria and Germany both have comprehensive legislation that many other countries are trying to follow, are following them. The northern countries is also important, especially from my experience. I know Denmark, for example, has a base laws on waste management, but compared with other countries, no, their approach leans more heavily on waste to energy. They practically ban landfilling combustible waste, meaning almost nothing goes to dumps. For example, the new policies, they encourage using waste as a resource for district heating. That is very important in Denmark. And finally, I would say Netherlands, because it has a very innovative regulations. And also, for example, Netherlands and Denmark, they are using a lot of the groundwater. It's very, I would say, the groundwater they are using is just groundwater, not surface, and they are avoiding any potential contamination. So they are closing, they are minimizing the use of landfillings.
That's very interesting. And on a similar topic, speaking of environmental information, why is it so critical for corporations to have accurate and traceable environmental data? And how does this influence strategic decision making?
Yeah, I mentioned before, not always data. I think data to have accurate and traceable environmental data is like the foundation of any serious sustainability effort. Without it, a company is essentially running blind. For example, data accuracy is crucial for compliance in CSRD, European regulations, or ISO 40001, environmental regulation, waste disposal, but also emissions or resource use require companies to report their numbers. Each data point should link back to evidence, for example, invoices, waste transfer notes, etc. So that sustainability reports can easily be verified. If those numbers are wrong, a company could end up facing fines or legal issues, and also the credibility of the company. But a part of avoiding penalties, having precise data means the company truly understands its environmental footprint. So traceable records to protect companies uh, during compliance checks and build with regulators that trust connections, I would say. Also, I think good data, well, one thing is data, but it has to be good data uh, makes also decisions better. For example, high quality environmental data provides a clear and actionable picture of a company. By monitoring waste, for example, and resource use across facilities, companies can spot inefficiencies and cost saving. That is important opportunities. No? Uh, so accurate data therefore drives continuous improvement. It's the feedback loop for sustainability initiative. For example, companies executives use this data to set targets like waste reduction or carbon neutrality, and also allocate capital. So they investing in recycling equipment where it yields that biggest gains can be obtained. Finally, the reliable data drive innovation and sustainability transformation. When data is reliable and granular, it can spark innovation. Detailed waste tracking might show that a certain material is a big waste cost, prompting research and development to find a recyclable alternative. So, in summary, data can be the catalyst for circular economy strategy. Once a company has mapped out all these materials flows, then it's easy to identify where to reduce, reuse, or recycle.
And Jordi, looking ahead, what trends do you see in waste management and corporate sustainability that companies should be anticipating now?
Yeah, the trends. One big trend we are seeing is the shift towards circular economy. Of course, this goes beyond basic recycling. Companies are starting to redesign products and packaging so that material can be reused almost indefinitely. For example, manufacturers are exploring ways to take back old products, recover the raw materials, and feed them into new production. It's a move away from the take, make, dispose model toward a more regenerative model. And business that prepare for this to design innovation, as we saw, and new partnerships between different stakeholders will have advantage in the market. Another major trend we are seeing, especially in multinational companies, is the digitalization and the smart technology in waste management. Apart from softwares, as TEIMAS is producing, we have seen sensors and the use of artificial intelligence tools now that can track waste in real time. Then this optimize the collection routes and even can sort materially automatically. These tools are making waste operations more efficient and transparent. In the next few years, having a digital waste tracking system, for example, that fits directly into your sustainability reporting will likely become the norm or something usual. On the policy side, regulatory expectations are ramping up. We are looking at stricter rules for reporting ESG, as we already explained. Data must be reliable, producer responsibility laws covering more products and types. So companies should anticipate that regulators that will demand more transparency about the waste goes, where they goes, and they are how they are reusing it. Another big issue, I think, and it's becoming more popular, is the collaboration and value chain initiatives. Sustainability changes like often span beyond a single company boundary. So a growing trend we are also seeing is the cross-industry collaboration. Sometimes it's called industrial symbiosis, where the waste from one company becomes the raw material for another. Digital platforms, for example, are emerging to facilitate these changes. In one of the fields we are working is contaminated soils, for example. They are creating what they call excavated soil banks. Soil is bring to a place where you can select and use for another or other type of waste. Um, so companies are working more closely with suppliers and customers to reduce waste upstream and downstream. For instance, take back programs for produce at the end of life, or partnering with packaging suppliers to create a fully recyclable packaging. And at the end, the main issue probably is the waste and climate change. More and more waste management is being viewed through climate lens. For example, methane emissions from landfills are under scrutiny now, and waste to energy projects with carbon capture might grow quite a lot. So those trends, circular design, digital tools, tighter regulations, collaboration between stakeholder and climate integration, for me, it's shaping future for waste management, not just as an operational issue, but a strategic pillar for sustainability.
That's a strong point. And now to conclude, if you could give one piece of advice, if you could give just one piece of advice to a large company aiming to improve its environmental impact, for example, what would it be?
I would say make sustainability a core part of your business strategy using real data and actionable goals. In practice, this means that moving beyond seeing environmental initiatives as a compliance checkbox, instead, embed environmental metrics into daily decisions, making a long-term planning, just as you would do with financial metrics. You cannot manage what you don't measure. So I would recommend investing in systems to track waste, emission, waste, etc., with a high degree of accuracy and traceability. For example, every kilogram of waste can be accounted for a trace in your system. This level of insight often reveals that the efficiency gains and cost savings. Foster a culture of innovation around the sustainability is the main issue, I would say.
Thank you so much, Jordi, for sharing these thoughts. That concludes today's discussion. Our sincere thanks to Jordi Boronat for sharing his insights with us.
Thank you for this time. It has been very interesting. Thank you.
And thank you, as always, for tuning in to TEIMAS Talks. Stay tuned for more perspectives on waste management and circular economy. Until next time.